Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the Peacemaker Season 1 review series. And today we are going to be talking about Episode 2, Best Friends for Never. And we are joined by a very special guest. You may know him as one of the top wrestling gurus of YouTube, the one and only The Holiday, Christopher Mace. And we are also joined by Rex DeBoss 1 and yours truly, Warhawk Beyond 2040. Chris, Rex DeBoss, great to have you guys here. How are you both doing?
Hanging in there. Like I said, it's been a while since I've been on YouTube, so I figured why not return to one of my friends' channels and talk about this interesting show that we have going on with the DC universe right now.
Rex DeBoss, great to have you here too.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going? Let's talk about Peacemaker, episode 2. Shout out to The Holiday, Christopher Mace, for being here, one of the best YouTubers that I was subscribed to, and hopefully we can get Chris back on YouTube and we can get things back up and running, because this is a nice little team up here. I'm sure that the followers will be really happy with what we've got going on tonight, so let's get to this.
All right, so we're going to start by talking about episode 2, Best Friends for Never. So Chris, you're the special guest. You're going to go first. What did you think of episode 2?
This episode was very interesting. Because like I said, everything is, they're building to something. They're building to something. Now, since I've seen, we know we've gotten through 6 episodes so far. So not trying to give anything away. We're just trying to stay focused on this episode. When I watched this episode, because I just recently watched it back here again before we did this show, like I said, it just continued right in the pace where it left off with, he killed the butterfly, and now he's trying to run. He's trying to call for help. He's having to gather up all this stuff. It was a funny thing with what some of the interaction, what he does. It's funny how Peacemaker is doing some of the stuff, but you see so many different complex sides of him where, he's being the dick, the sarcastic ass, all this other stuff. And then then you see an emotional side of him, different things like that, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get further into actually dissecting the whole episode. But all in all, this was a really interesting. This show in general has been very interesting, sarcastic, funny, stupid, all this stuff and above. But it makes for a really good show.
Definitely, I agree. Rex DeBoss, what did you think of episode 2?
Pretty much exactly the same. I thought it was a pretty decent episode. It was the episode where I really started to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching the rest of this series. The first episode was enough to keep me wanting to watch the second episode, like I said in last week's review. But the second episode was enough for me to immediately know, yeah, I'm definitely going to be sticking around for the long run for this series here. And I also want to mention that we mentioned in the last review about the difference between the CW shows and this show. I also found out that Superman and Lois and Stargirl, the reason why they seem and are much better produced and look better than any of the CW shows is because they are actually produced by HBO as well. So Stargirl and Superman and Lois and Peacemaker are all produced by HBO. So it looks like HBO is taking the reins of these fringe DC EU characters. But yeah, to this episode, I thought it was a really good episode. As Chris just hinted upon then, I'm going to go straight into it now, the emotional side. Getting to see and I even hinted on this last week, the 2013 paranoid life of the John Cena wrestling character play out as the Peacemaker in 2022, where he clearly has these emotional outbursts. He clearly knows what people really think about him. As I said last week, if you know the John Cena character from wrestling, you can't avoid seeing, is this a rib? Are they actually showing us now what John Cena would have been like in the changing room or in the dressing room after these matches were taking place? Because there's moments in this where it gets quite real. I don't know what you thought, going back to you after, Chris, but I don't know what you thought, but there's moments in this where it gets really, really real with the emotional side. But yeah, back to you, Walk.
I quite enjoyed, just like you two said, I really enjoyed this episode. There was some bits at the beginning which kind of made me laugh, where he's trying to escape from the cops, and he's like walking around in like his pants, which I thought was quite stupid. And
The whole pants scene. Sorry to cut you off, but the whole pants scene from the first episode into the second episode,
yeah,
it has to be. That has to be some kind of, as I say once again, comedic. You're a wrestler. You're used to being in your pants, etc. It has to be, because we never got to see John Cena late in his career in the trunks and all that. It has to be something to do with, we need to get John Cena in this program in his pants, because obviously not a bad looking guy. He's got a nice body, etc. The one thing that a lot of people always criticize Cena for was the fact that he would either wrestle in his t-shirt or he'd wrestle in his shorts, and he would. A lot of people would say, well, you don't look like a traditional wrestler. When you look at that of Cena, tell me that's not the most traditional look that a wrestler can have with what John Cena's dressed like in that scene there.
oh yeah. It was funny though, just like seeing him on the phone to Harcourt, and he's like running up and down the stairs. It's like, oh, look, I'm in my pants, you know. I thought to myself watching that, I thought, I know this is a proper filmed scene, but this could have easily been like a blooper or something.
Size is too small for him as well.
I know.
The t-shirt was like made of like the most sturdiest like leather or whatever that you could
it
not.
looked like something
stretch.
that could have been made for a child, because he's like putting the shirt on. He's like, damn it, Chad! You know,
it was definitely a child's t-shirt. No human being over the age of like 12 could have fit inside of whatever. It was clearly they'd given him a smaller t-shirt, so he struggled more. But it was funny. It was really. Now I think about that scene, it was really funny.
It easily could have been like a blooper or something. You know, like one of those outtakes on sets that the film crew are just ribbing Cena. That's what it felt like to me, because he's just like running up and down the corridor with the vinyl collection. You know, the bit where he's so like possessive of the Cinderella vinyl was just so funny. And there was that other bit, if you two remember, he goes into this couple's apartments, and he's like starting to hit on the guy's wife. Said, "Oh, you into Cinderella too?" He's like, "Yeah." "You into Cinderella?" He goes like, "Yeah." So blues and metal, good, isn't it? It's like, yeah, dude, are you not hitting on my wife?
But it also shows how desperate. No, but listen, it also shows though how desperate that she is, because she's clearly, and maybe I'm just looking way too much into this, but she's clearly a woman that might have looked a certain way before. She feels like she might look a certain way now. You can clearly see she's a little bit more, just let's just say casual. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I thought she looked decent though.
No, she does look decent. She's a very good looking woman, but you can clearly see that the way that they made her look was like, she's not, nothing's really happening in her life. She might not be as happy. The guy's a bit of a layaway or whatever. He looks like he's not really doing much. They're not very happy with what's going on. This guy breaks in. Clearly, he's robbed somebody else's house, because we're overlooking the fact that the guy is a thief. Even though he's a superhero and all that, he clearly robs this butterfly's house. This woman who turned into this alien creature, he clearly robs her house, her apartment. He clearly steals anything that is of value, including the thing that transported the alien thing into her brain. He steals that as well, doesn't he? The glowing thing.
Yeah. He took that as well. And there's another funny bit, if you two also remember. He's like trying to escape from the cops, but every time he jumps out of a window or balcony, he just falls like, it's like, come on.
He can't land on his feet. It was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. He can't land on his feet. But then later in the program, or maybe I'm just thinking it, but later down the line, you'll get to see something that just completely contradicts that shit. But then also it could be to do with the psychological side to it. When he's not feeling great and when he's not feeling confident, everything falls apart. Like we spoke about last week, Warhawk. The thing with his dad, you can clearly see he's got some kind of PTSD issues. He's got some kind of traumatized situation with his dad. And obviously we get to see more of it as the episodes, episodes reveal themselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing here. It's like the whole situation. He's trying to run out of the apartment. They're trying to save him, and he's more worried about Eagle. Have you seen Eagly? No, I'm not going out there with you. Nerd. if you just crumble up some potato chip bags, he'll come to you. Why are you feeding the bird potato chips? Well, that's what he was more worried about with the bird. He was like, I gotta save Ely. And then he just going running to that apartment and stuff, and then he's trying to jump, and he could not land with the speed of his life depending on it. Bump, bump,
I
bump.
like how they're taken. And you know what? And I'll say this for the fans out there. You all know that obviously The Rock is going to be this Black Adam character, yeah?
Yeah.
This series, whether you understand it or not, is a direct look for style and all that into whatever The Rock, this humor is right down that wrestler turned actor sort of role. If you look at the way that John Cena speaks when he comes onto WWE TV since he went into this higher Hollywood role, this is his comedy, isn't it? It's the, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What am I doing? It's this panicked sort of hilarious, I'm going to make fun of you at the same time as making fun of myself and stripping away any layers. It's almost like the Eminem in the 8 Mile thing. I'll just make myself look stupid so that you can't point out how stupid I look.
Well, it's like you said in last week's review when we was talking about episode 1, which goes into like episode 2. It's the Peacemaker character. It's almost like an extension of John Cena. It's like they're two completely different people, but at the same time, it's one guy, but they're so similar to each other.
There has to be a reason. Somebody in the back, and I will say this week after week, somebody in the casting for this character knows who this character really is and which direction that they were going to go in. And somebody sat there and said, fuck, this sounds like John Cena. Then here we are. And I'm telling you, that is exactly what must have happened. Because you guys do what I do. You sit there, you watch things, you do research, you do other stuff. There are times, like when I was watching certain films, there are times when you see things and it makes you reference something else. This person would have been perfect in this role, or this person would have been perfect if he was in this film.
Absolutely.
If you are working for these companies and somebody reads you a script that sounds like this script, what this character sounds like, a character that thinks that he's this great superhero, and even if he does do great stuff, people are still not really fully behind him. And he can keep talking about how he's got a big penis and how he's got a big muscles and he's got this and he's got that. But there's a mad underlining, really insecure version of this character. Are you telling me for 1 second that as a grown man, none of you didn't see this in the actual John Cena character in like 2013 and 14 when he was having those issues backstage with characters like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, and the crowd were reacting the way that they were reacting to him, and he couldn't understand why he was being booed and all that kind of stuff because of what he's done in his real life and all that. This is that character right now, the Peacemaker, whether DC were aware of this or not. This is, for me, a comic book extension. As I said last week, I had to actually go and do research to realize that this character wasn't just designed for John Cena. He actually was in the DCE or DC universe before this series and the film, the Suicide Squad film, came out.
I think the Peacemaker character, I'm not entirely too sure, but I think Peacemaker actually came out, I'm guessing, either 1978 or at least the mid-80s, because he's quite a recent character.
It was in the late 70s, because I can tell you that because I have my dad's comics, and one of the comics he has is actually an issue of Peacemaker of his old comic books I looked through, and it actually was from 1978, the one I was looking at.
I thought it was 78.
So, but what's interesting though too is like both of you are saying, like you said, this is like John Cena's wrestling career. He was torn, but if you look at Peacemaker character himself, you're seeing he doesn't seem like he knows the difference anymore between if he's Peacemaker or when he's just Chris. And that's the thing. You can tell he's just pretty much being this Peacemaker character. I don't think in this episode you could clearly see he can't tell the difference between when he's Peacemaker, when he's actually just Chris the human being. And I think you start seeing when he starts breaking down there later in the episode, when he starts having a breakdown, that he just seems like he can't split the two apart. He can't just be Chris. He has to always be Peacemaker 24 hours a day, 24 hours. He has to be this Peacemaker guy. And he's starting to break down because he's realizing that he's not loved by hardly anybody. Nobody really likes him
Well,
at all.
Psychological. That's definitely psychological when you're seeing that with him. Like,
yeah, you see that a lot in this episode too.
It's the whole mask thing as well. It's the whole mask thing. It's not quite the deal with the mask. They're not showing that yet. But it's the whole, when is he wearing the mask? Is he wearing the mask when he's wearing the helmet? Or is he wearing the mask when he takes off the helmet? Which one is the real version of, Peacemaker? Is Peacemaker the Chris in him? Or is Peacemaker the Peacemaker in him? Like Chris just alluded to then. He is struggling to even accept that the real version of himself is, unfortunately for himself, he is a loser. And he is hated by many people, and people see him like the potential character that I said, the Jervis character. He sees him as just a joke. And, if go back to the John Cena thing, minus the helmet, you could see John Cena wearing this outfit to be a wrestler. This looks like, how do we stylize this Peacemaker guy with this John Cena guy? And then there cannot be, going back to my original point, there cannot be a coincidence of why this character is basically the depiction of a tweener. Yes. Somebody who, an anti-hero, somebody who, we finally in 2022 have got the anti-hero version of John Cena, the slightly more edgy version of him that will take life and go for the kill. At the same time, he will take responsibility for himself, being an annoying, overbearing, just completely, like nauseous character at times. And you see it in this program. Like, to be honest, I just laughed when I seen him. I had to rewind that a couple of times when I seen him crying. And
what about Chris in this episode in particular, where they arrest his dad after switching the fingerprints? I thought that was quite a good bit of television there.
That was interesting because, like I said, you're trying in the show, you're trying to get Peacemaker to start trusting you. So, like he said, he was arguing, well, you were doing a number 2. I didn't know what you were doing. You could have been doing number 2. Why didn't you just ask me? Well, I had to think quick, so I had to switch and make his dad's fingerprints. And it was just interesting because not only did they switch his fingerprints, make it his dad's, and then Robert Patrick portrays his role very well. He is
brilliant.
Even more intimidating than he was back many years ago when he played the T-1000 in Terminator 2. He has that intimidating presence about him when he appears on screen.
Absolutely.
And when you're watching it and he's going, okay, well, you want to go talk to my son, you clearly know he's racist as heck. You know what character he is, so he's clearly racist as hell.
Absolutely.
And then they go back, and not only that, Amanda Waller's daughter convinces the couple that John Cena, kidnapped and was flirting with the wife and stuff, to convince them to point finger his dad at the same time too, to finger that it was his dad who did it, which was even more crazy how they were able to do that and convince them to do that.
There's also a subtle hint as well, to get serious. There's also a subtle hint of the difference between that character, the one who frames the dad, what he would do when he has got freedom, and what you've seen him do in the films when he is completely under the control of Amanda Waller. You see, without the pressure, how he makes a shit decision. But yet, if he was in front of Amanda Waller, he wouldn't have made that decision, because she has, whether you agree with what she does or not, there's part of it that you have to accept in this universe, that she makes those tough decisions that other people won't make.
That's right.
This is an example of that. This is an example of what they've been trying to show you in the DC universe, that there's an evil world out there. And like Batman has to do this all the time as well. He has to make decisions that aren't always, it's not just the cookie cutter version of Spider-Man where he can only do certain things that are good. Like over the years, they've had to obviously change the Spider-Man character to make it more realistic, as in, like we've seen in the modern Spider-Man film, the recent one, where he actually goes a little bit over the top and gets to the point where kids might actually not like to see that because of what Spider-Man's doing. In this world, in DC, they've always been known as having their characters take to the next level, like Batman getting real serious, and like some of these characters do make vows never to kill, but they break them. Eventually, in the DC universe, they're forced to break them because of the way that the DC universe is. And this is where, like I say, these characters, because they haven't got the control, this I forget what his name is, but the scientist guy, the technology guy, the tech guy, he technically is so controlled by Amanda in the films that he can't make a mistake. But in this, as soon as you see that he's not got Amanda breathing down his neck, he makes a rash decision, which, yes, it's a good decision to lock up the racist white supremacist, you know, but at the same time, it was a pretty rash decision that he made, let's be honest.
Sometimes you need to have the handcuffs off to make those tough decisions, as Amanda Waller does, as we see.
Yeah, that's why they need to be controlled, and she needs to be the one that takes the responsibility for the hard jobs. But we're now seeing both sides of it now with Amanda Waller, how far she's willing to make it so that she covers up all of hers and Argos tracks, even to the point where she'll put her own daughter in there, and clearly her own daughter is being controlled by her through something to do with her child. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, how sick is this woman? And the amount of times in this series as well that they hint upon Amanda Waller not being a nice woman, and her daughter's sitting there. They obviously don't know that she's her daughter, but she has to listen to these things being said about her mom. And she knows that her mom is manipulating her through control, like she did with Idris Elba's character, with the daughter. I'll kidnap your daughter. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'll free her when, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's the same story that they're using with the daughter as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. This was the episode we actually saw Vigilante in full costume. He's kind of like.
I'm laughing because I was waiting for you to mention. Obviously, after the emotional scene, it quickly turns into a very, very funny scene. Like, come on, Warhawks, lead us through this scene where he's crying, he's emotional, he's on the bed, he's basically talking to himself, like, you know, he's saying all the things that 2013 WWE audience was saying about him. Him. But he's saying
basically, really, we see Vigilante in full costume. This is actually officially Vigilante making his live-action debut in the DCEU. And his costume, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree about this. I think Rex and I talked about this in the last review. His costume is very similar to Kick-Ass costume. Very similar, the design. Obviously, there's some differences because Kick-Ass's costume was green and yellow, very bright and green yellow design. But with Vigilante's, it's like this very dark, greeny blue color with some green, and he's got like this red visor, and you see him, he's sitting in Peacemaker's caravan or house or whatever he's got, and he's just sitting there, he's just talking pure rubbish. Goes, hey man, how you doing? It's like, dude, what are you doing here?
Before this, let me say this now, because I need to run through this, because this is hysterical. Firstly, this is the Adrian Chase debut of Vigilante, because of course Adrian Chase in Arrow was Prometheus. But no, this is not Vigilante's debut in the DCEU, because he was in Arrow. He was played by the boyfriend of somebody else. I can't remember, the girl who became the Black Canary. I told you this the other day. It got very convoluted when they started to replace and recast characters in Arrow. The second Black Canary girl, I think she's Latino, the girl who had the screech. Her ex-boyfriend.
Oh no, she's the third. No, she's the she was the third Black Canary. She was the third one.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, she was the third
one. I remember now.
And her boyfriend from the past, he played Vigilante. He was a different character, but so he has been seen in the DCEU before.
He has, but this is like the first time we're seeing him in this sort of format.
In this format, yeah, where you can see him in the light, so you can see what the guy actually looks like. Because in Arrow, it was just filmed always in the dark, always in the same environment. But nonetheless, in this scene, this gets real funny, and I was going to speak about this in the last episode. So John Cena, obviously Peacemaker, is crying his eyes out. He's calling himself. It's a really funny segment, but it's also emotional. You can see it. And then Vigilante sneaks up to the window behind him, and he's like, "Hey, dude, are you okay?" And John Cena is like, I know you've got your you know what out. I know that you're like he says, I know you've got your penis out. You said that you haven't, but I'm gonna turn around and then you'll rock hard. I swear to you, I was in absolute stitches when this took place because I was already laughing at the fact that he was emotional because of the self-doubt and the name calling and stuff. Yeah. I was already laughing at that anyway. But then when this bit happened where he's like, dude, I know you're gonna be there. I know you got your penis out. I know I'm gonna turn around and it's gonna be rock hard. Yeah. I burst. I absolutely burst at this scene. I thought this was absolute gold. This is the level where you couldn't do this on, like, say, WWE. I know I keep referencing WWE. You're gonna have to deal with that with John Cena being in this. But they couldn't get away with that in WWE. But in this, that was just so funny. I have to say that was one of the funniest things that I have seen in any of these programs ever.
Yeah, I love, aside from Peacemaker, I think Vigilante could or at least that version of Vigilante, he could very well be my favorite of the show. He's just absolutely epic in the show. I mean, he's one of those guys, like, when he opens his mouth and he comes out of that rubbish, you just sit there facepalm thinking, oh, please get this guy to stop talking. But at the same time, you want him to talk because he's just so funny. And I think those two together, their chemistry on screen is just fantastic. And when I was watching this episode in particular, I thought to myself, I know they probably won't do it, but if they did, I wouldn't say no to a Peacemaker and Vigilante buddy cop spin-off. I think that would be absolutely amazing.
I think that's what we might be heading towards. I
hope so.
They missed out on a massive opportunity about a decade ago when they first bought out Arrow, etc. I think they missed out on a massive opportunity to have the DCE universe just be what the old superhero of the week would be, like the Superman and Friends or whatever. They missed a massive opportunity to just have weekly episodic TV with different DC characters just being in a role. So you get a team up between, Vigilante and Peacemaker, and then Vigilante gets his own standalone few episodes, and then maybe you bring in the Green Arrow back, maybe Amel does come back as the Green Arrow, and then somebody else does come in as somebody else, and the Flash comes in, and all those kind of things there, where you get an episode rather than it being 26 episodes of the Flash and 24 episodes of Supergirl. Why can't we just have this better 52-minute format, 1 hour format, higher budget, 1 episode of the Flash, 1 episode of Supergirl, 1 episode of Legends of Tomorrow, where it then leads into its own storyline arc of the next time you'll see the Legends of Tomorrow, they'll have a new person to fight, or whatever. Like, why can't we get that now rather than what we still get, which is every series has to have 10, 12, 14 episodes of the same character, even though we've already seen the first series and the second series, etc. So once they get to series 2, series 3, I think that they should really start to blend these characters into their own HBO universe, where 1 week we get the Arrow, 1 week we get the Flash, 1 week we get somebody else, and you get these higher budget episodes, so they look like mini films, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, what do you think of the high budget with this episode? Do you agree with Rex that the budget's a lot higher than a CW show?
Oh, definitely. This is just pretty much like a lot of these shows have been doing. Anything you compare to what the Marvel series have been doing, and then this series has done, is it makes it feel like this is a mini series. Yes, it is a mini series because it's going to have 8 episodes, but you feel like you're watching a movie, and it's a continuation of a movie from start to finish. And with the Vigilante character, I think this was perfectly done with the Vigilante character. Him and John Peacemaker, they just are act like they're two brothers wanting to fight each other. You better not show me your dick. I'll tell you that now. It better not be hard. No, shut up. And then they're arguing each other, talking about the good times, about how, we used to do this and we used to do that. And then you get to see that montage where they're shooting up things and blowing up things, just trying to relax and have a good time.
Sounds like they had a quite evil past as well. Like, no one took any responsibility for the things that they were doing before Peacemaker got locked up. Like, Peacemaker seems to have only developed the conscience since he was part of the Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and you see that, and then I don't think he really developed a conscience until after he got shot and he got left at the hospital, and then he realizes nobody was there to pick him up or anything like that. He's like, I can free to go, like that happened in the first episode, because
Sold out, didn't he? He basically sold out his character, everything that he stands for. He's as soon as he agreed with Amanda Waller to go against his actual team, he went against every ethic, because even though he wasn't exactly a good guy, there is also a code of ethics for people who are bad as well, isn't there? Like, you don't rat people out, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do the other. And he obviously decided to go against any sort of ethics of what they had, and he went and killed Rick Flag. And this is what he's obviously haunted by. This is where the psychological side comes in. A lot of it's to do with
you do see a flashback from the movie with Peacemaker taking out Rick Flag, and before Rick Flag actually dies, you actually see that flashback. It says, Peacemaker, what a joke. And those words, like you two said,
going to turn out to be his brother. I thought he was going to reveal that Rick Flag was his brother.
That would have been something.
I thought that he was going to reveal that Rick Flag was really his brother. Like, I could, like, that at that moment there, that's when I thought that this was getting real serious. I thought, whoa, this has gone real dark. Like, is Rick Flag going to turn out to be his actual brother?
That's what I was thinking too, because they kept referencing him the first 2 episodes so far.
Like, I loved you, brother. I can't stand you. I've never liked you.
Yeah.
Like, his dad does say to him directly to his face in either episode 1 or episode 2, I loved your brother. With you, you were just a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, with episode 2 so far, I mean, even though it's only episode 2, it's already getting really good already, like you both said. I mean, it's going places with John Cena that we didn't get in WWE. It's like you said, Rex. It's like, this is what the Cena we should have got all those years ago, and we're only just starting to see it now. And the other funny thing in this episode was when he found out that the butterfly had a hit on him to take him out, and none of the team told him. I thought that was quite messed up. You just think, you're working with Amanda Waller's people. You would have thought Amanda Waller's people would have told him, oh, by the way, there's a hit on you by a butterfly or someone to take you out. And he's like, dude, why didn't you guys tell me that someone was out to kill me? As you said, Rex, that no one likes this guy. No one cares about this guy whatsoever. And you see that a lot in this episode.
I think that's what's finally getting to him when you're watching this episode. I think he's finally come to a realization, Peacemaker. He goes, you know what? Nobody really, because in his mind, he's a superhero.
Yes.
And everybody else's mind, he's the villain, the villain that's either whether he's an idiot or whatever they look at him as. They know he's the bad guy. He does the killing. He's this horrible person. And then like I said, I'm trying not to go into further episodes where you get more explanation of this, but in his mind, I think he comes to realization that he realizes I'm not this hero that I thought I was, and I think that's what his breakdown was about too. Before Vigilante came there, because like the only friend actually likes him is Vigilante, and Vigilante at this time doesn't even reveal himself to Peacemaker who he really is. I can take off the mask. What's wrong with you? I don't do that.
And he's a very cold. You can tell at heart. You get that little subtle hint when Vigilante, the actual guy who plays him, the Adrian Chase character, when he's at the restaurant and he's doing all the shadow boxing and that outside, and the guy catches him. He clearly, as we now know, could just wipe the floor with this idiot, yeah? But because when he hasn't got the mask on, like I say, once again, this world of that people might overlook in the modern day, all these characters at heart, every single DC and Marvel character at heart is a stereotype or is some kind of person that they might be seeing the world a different way from what you're seeing it. And sometimes it can come down to this is why they're superheroes, because they put other people's lives before their own. Whereas with Peacemaker, he may be doing things that are good, but he's not doing them for good reasons. He's doing them because he wants to be like people to make him feel better and people to make him feel like he's a hero, rather than doing it like a Batman, where Batman's saving the world and people hate him because he's this dark guy in the nighttime who people then grow jealous towards that. Like, oh, why does he think he's so special? Why does he think this? so people grow resentful because obviously, like you say, in these worlds, you're either a criminal or you're a good guy. There is no in between in these types of worlds in the DC universe and in the Marvel universe. It's basically good, hardworking people like cops and, you know, people, citizens that do their job properly and stuff like that. And then the other side of it is just despicable, evil people. Whereas with this Peacemaker character, you're clearly seeing that he is doing good at a certain extent. He is trying to stop criminals, but it's all based on we get to take people out, we get to kill people, we get to hurt people, we get to embarrass people, we get to do this, we get to feel good about what we do, not for the better of the mankind. Like basically, like they say, we even kill innocent people sometimes, and they sort of just Vigilante just glosses over that. Like, oh yeah, sometimes we kill innocent people, but you know, we just get over it after, don't we? But you can clearly see that John Cena, his face is saying, no, I'm not now getting over this now. A lot of the bad things that we've done, a lot of the unjustifiable things that we've done in the name of being these anti-hero vigilantes that go around and stop crime, some of these things might not actually look great when you break them down. They actually make us look like quite horrible people, evil people.
Yeah, definitely. You spot on, brother. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
So then, like I said, once that's all said and done, it's the ending of it was interesting. Was like I said, his father gets put in prison again, and you know, you could tell we all know who he's going to end up being without spoil. If people who don't know yet, they can wait till later reviews to find out. Later episodes.
We've already told them who this guy's going to be, because you can't avoid it, can you? Let's be honest. You can't avoid the fact that this guy is also a different character in the DC universe, and a very, very controversial character in 2022. Like, you know, if Peacemaker had been a series in 2005, this might not be such an important point. But in this SJW world, this character is very controversial because he makes one hell of a villain. He makes one hell of a villain in 2022, because I can tell you now that he will just people knowing that what he is, that the White Dragon character, by the way, people knowing what he is will just incite people's anger.
That's the thing. It's going to be interesting.
The ending you was talking about earlier.
Yeah, like I said, you know, he gets, you know, you see where he's confronting one of the inmates, said, I'm going to sit here between this time, so I can have the sun. He goes, I ain't messing with you. Then you see everybody stand up, and he's like, this ain't worth my life. It's over a window. And you can see all of them worshiping him and everything towards the end. And then the ending after that, it was interesting just because you see that John Cena and Vigilante and then the girl from that he kidnapped and stuff, and they all end up having a threesome. Obviously, it's insinuated. You can obviously tell they're all smoking pot, and it's just funny. And then Vigilante, he won't even take off his mask during that. That's funny. He's just wearing it.
That's another thing as well. Like John Cena sitting there smoking pot, as well. That's another thing that was like, this guy is cheap. He don't care. Like, I'll say it now. Like, as an actor, you've seen him play in some of the movies that he's been in, like Transformers, etc. You've seen him play, not, I wouldn't say a bad guy, but just, you know, you straight up, you know, just over the top, frustrating army soldier type of character. Yeah. You've seen him play that in military type of guy, super military type of guy. You've seen him play these characters in films, and that's about as far as heel as he's gone, as I've seen. But in this, where you're seeing him doing all this smoking pot, they clearly had a threesome, even though, were they? I don't know. It would have been nice if you'd have got to have, obviously not, you wouldn't have got to see anything, but in the first series, in the first episode, they showed us the simulated sex. Now, in that scene, now did that scene take place in episode 2 or episode 3? Because I can't remember. But
the one with Cena getting off with a butterfly, that was in the first episode.
No, where they're smoking weed and they're both Vigilante's still got his mask on and shit. Where they're still.
That's the second episode.
That was the second one at the end.
Is that at the end of the second episode? Yeah. Because
it was. Yeah, I never thought I'd see a day of Cena smoking pot.
It was obvious. It was obvious to me as an adult what had happened there. That obviously this had been some kind of group sex, yeah. But at the same time, they didn't. It's almost like you needed a bit more information there. Like I know that it was obvious what you were seeing, but then at the same time, there are hints in this that like they wouldn't be confident enough to do that. Like, you know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, Vigilante probably wouldn't be confident enough to do that, even with the mask on and that. It makes him seem like he might be a bit of a weirdo when it comes to those things there. So that scene there for me, I'll just say, as funny as it was to see John Cena smoking and stuff like that,
It was brilliant.
that scene, it was a little bit out of place. That scene, I felt like that should have probably taken place maybe in a few episodes time, if you know what I mean. Like, I knew that she was going to turn out to be a bit of a dodgy one, but then at the same time, I don't know. It was just such a scene where it gave you enough, but it didn't give me enough. As in, like, it would have been nice if, and I know this is going to sound very, very graphic to maybe any females listening. I apologize, you know, if there is any females listening, of course. But it would have been nice if one of them would have been like, anyway, and then like pushed her head down or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, visually, you would have got to see her. So I know she had a boob hanging out and whatever else, but it would have been nice to have visually have actually seen her being willing to do certain things rather than her just, you know, it's pretty obvious laying in bed with two half-naked men. It's pretty obviously
I can probably imagine Peacemaker doing all the work while Vigilante's just watching.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It would have been nice.
I'm just like going, "What's up, guys? Y'all doing?"
Dude, I want to have a go, because not now.
Well, the reason why is because, and I need to warn anyone who hasn't watched any of the further episodes, it's only a minor thing, but later in the episodes, John Cena calls Vigilante Thimble. That's his nickname, and obviously Thimble is a thingy about a nickname for his dick. Yeah. So obviously, me thinking now, I'm looking back and I'm thinking, right, so hold on a minute. So why was that not brought in this episode then? Like, do you know what I mean? They've just, like you just said, it would have been thingy if you'd have got to see the simulated part where John Cena's going absolutely, you know, crazy and doing the freedom screaming again, like he did in the first episode. And then Vigilante gets his turn and he's just not up to the same level as John Cena's character.
Even just for a couple of seconds.
But it's almost like they cut something out here, like something got removed, or this should have been put in a later episode. But yeah, let's move through.
But I do like the very end where he grabs that thing he found at the hotel, the girl's butterfly's apartment, and then he opens and he's looking at it, and it opens up into a little spaceship when they end the episode. I thought that was interesting. So you're obviously seeing that, you know, okay, well, something is going on, because look at this little spaceship. That's a little miniature spaceship, because, you know, even then John Cena's character doesn't realize yet what exactly butterflies are, because he hasn't been told nothing. He don't know what it means with butterfly. He doesn't know yet, which I found funny when you see this little spaceship, and it clicked in my head like going, I bet they're being really sarcastic and being actual butterflies.
Yeah, I thought that was a very funny ending and a cool setup for episode 3, which we will talk about in the next review. But yeah, that was a very good ending. Just very bizarre ending, wouldn't you say, guys?
Yeah, I thought it was quite bizarre. And also I want to point out as well, because we've not really spoke about her in this episode, or him in this episode. I feel like there's too much pressure at this stage. I feel like Cena's character, the Peacemaker, would be, because we get to see this later down the line again, once again, I feel like he'd be questioning everything that was being asked of him at this stage. Like, the guy, the leader, Mern, he's basically just saying, get this done. Like, he's basically playing the Amanda Waller at the moment.
Yeah.
But it feels like there's not enough at stake so far. Like, there's not enough layers yet for John Cena's character, apart from do you want to go back to, at this point, I feel like he probably would just say, take me back to prison. Why am I dealing with this crap for? Like, it doesn't seem worth it. And then the Amanda Waller's daughter, like, we're getting the first signs in this episode, you know, where they pick up Peacemaker from where he escapes from the apartment during the episode. I feel like we're getting the example now that she might not be as trained, and she might not be as, you know, there's something more to her. The Amanda Waller's daughter, you can clearly see, and I think that Hardcore is starting to see through this, where she's just saying things. This is Amanda Waller's daughter. She's just saying things that make her seem like she fits in with the group, whereas she does kind of stand out like a sore thumb, because A, we've not seen her in the Suicide Squad films. B, she clearly hasn't got the agent on in the scene, like agent on scene skills. And we also know as the audience that she's Amanda Waller's daughter. So there's reasons to question her immediately about, you know, is she reliable? What's she going to do if she gets put in a pressure situation? Like when she's in the thing and they're shooting at the car and she's very scared and all that. These are things that she's told this team that she's been trained to deal with, and she clearly hasn't.
And I think Peacemaker's still continuing to do this too, because they've already established he still has the bomb in his head that they can just blow up at any time too.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I said. I feel like he would just go back to prison. Like prison's always an option, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like at this stage, like what we've seen of him, he has got the same. Remember, even though he played a completely different character, he's got the same mentality as what Idris Elba would have had. Why the hell am I doing this for? Like, yo, just take me back to jail.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he's had a taste of freedom now. This doesn't seem like it's worth me risking my life for. So why don't you go and get one of the other people who were aware of the other Suicide Squad members to try this out for a while? And then if it works out, then I'll come back. Yeah. He could instantly do that because we know he could do that. You know what I mean? But obviously at this point, the program's making us focus hard on they've got a bomb in his head. Now, if Myrn turned around to him and said to him, listen, I don't give a crap what you want. You're not going back to prison. Like if he did the Amanda Waller thing, you're not going back to prison. I will just execute you because I'm sick and tired of you. Yeah, you're expendable. That would make sense because then they could just keep him where he is. Or if they had something looming over him, if they'd have locked up his dad as a way of saying, well, now we've got your dad. If that was the case, I could understand. But it's like at this stage, can any of you, you know, in your opinion, would you two say that this is enough for any character in this Suicide Squad universe? Is this enough for them to start risking their life? Is this enough for that so far?
Well, it's just we're going to have to see how this plays out. But I see what you mean. It's definitely getting you thinking and getting you to pay attention more to what's going on because, as you say, you're asking all these questions. Why is this happening? You know, what's going on?
And after watching the first two, you think, does Vern even have control of the bomb in his head? Because Amanda Waller, as far as I know, is the only one that has control of that situation.
At this stage, I don't even know if they're even actually working for Amanda Waller. I think that Amanda Waller sent them because they're all the dodgy characters that might screw her over, which some of them obviously have already screwed her over.
Yeah.
They're the dodgy characters, bearing in mind that, and I only learnt this week, and this is something that may come down the line. And I apologize if it does come in one of the later episodes, but I'm going to speak about this because this character's not in this series apart from right at the start of the first episode. The woman, the mixed race woman with the glasses, in the Suicide Squad movie that hits Amanda Waller over the head with the thing and knocks her out. She is apparently Amanda Waller's cousin.
Oh, okay.
In the actual comic books, she is Amanda Waller's cousin. Yes, guys, I did some research this week.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, like I said, so yeah, she is apparently Amanda Waller's cousin. Now, obviously, what you seen was she got arrested, didn't she, at the start of episode 1. She gets arrested as part of the team, and obviously she doesn't get reassigned. She gets sent somewhere else. Yeah, sorry, she gets reassigned and she gets sent somewhere else. Whereas this part of the team features the guy from the team that also reluctantly but does screw her over. The guy who shouts, "We got a kaijin up in this big." You know what I mean? Like basically, like he has been sent here, so he's a familiar face, so we know him from the Suicide Squad films. But the other woman with the glasses, she may come into this later on, who knows? But she is Amanda Waller's cousin, like I said. So yeah, that's something that you want to keep in mind. That Amanda Waller clearly, obviously, held her family very low regards because she controls most of them with the same thing that she's controlled these expendable characters in the DC universe. So every character, basically, every person in the world to Amanda Waller, who's not actually in this apart from the video link thing, she is, as she's always been portrayed in the DC universe, she's probably the most evil character in the DC universe, to be honest. I'd go as far as saying that. Like in Arrow, they showed her a little bit like she was a bit of an anti-hero or whatever, yeah. But no, this Amanda Waller version in the cinematic universe, like even in the extended universe now, she is probably the most evil character in the DC universe. Definitely. For human characters, if you know what I mean, not powered characters, like human characters.
she will get the job done by any means necessary and use whoever she has to use and get them to do. And then, like she said in the first Suicide Squad movie, my job is, like I said, I pretty much can manipulate anybody in the situation to what I need them to do.
She will use, like, she's the person who you have to look deeper. Like in Arrow, they showed that you could tell her that you were the Green Arrow, and you could tell her that you were Batman or whatever. But in this series, would you, if you was a mid-level, random level DC superhero, like, you know, to throw somebody out there from the Arrowverse, you know, if you were somebody like a Firestorm, would you want Amanda Waller to know that you were Firestorm?
Absolutely not.
So there you go. Like I said, she is to where I'd be more confident to let the supervillains know who I am than I would to let her know, because she doesn't just try to end you or fight you or to avoid you. She actually tries to openly manipulate and destroy the character that is within you, to control you, to do her bidding. In her words, for the greater version of mankind or whatever. But it doesn't always seem like that, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No. So, but what does everybody think about the end credit scenes they've been showing these first couple episodes? They're little, like, 10, 15-second little scenes they've been showing. We had another one episode too.
I might not have seen any of them, to be honest. You might have to even run me through what they are.
Well, this episode has they're in the interrogation room. They're looking at pictures and stuff. And they're showing that scene a little bit further going on, and they're asking, like, "Are you sure it's him?" "Yes, I'm positive, guys." "Yes, that's absolutely him. I'm sure, 100% sure it's him."
Oh yeah, the parents, where the couple point at the dad.
Yeah, the point, and then it's extended scene of that. And then the girls point at the same picture. Then you can see her clearly trying to take the picture of Peacemaker and trying to put it in her pocket when the detective comes.
I didn't see that part of it.
I must have missed that.
It's at the end credit scene for anybody who's listening to this. If you play the credits out, as soon as the credits end, before they show the rest of it, there's a scene, and it's been on every episode so far. You go to the end of the credits. Then there's a scene. It's like a 15-second scene. Like the first episode was a little gag scene of stuff going on for the first episode.
Something to do with scabies, wasn't it, or whatever? I remember the first one was something to do with the dad was saying it was something to do with a conversation between him and his dad. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then in the second one, like you say, it was the scene where the couple picks out the pictures of
and the girl's trying to steal the picture of Peacemaker and put it in her pocket.
I've never seen that hot guy.
I've never seen that hot guy before. Let me take this picture here.
Yeah. I think I remember some of that.
So, yeah, it is interesting. Each episode, there's a little snippet, like a little 15, 20-second end credit scene for each episode so far.
Yeah,
I remember now. Yeah, she openly picks up the picture off the table right in front of the Chinese woman and goes to put it in her pocket.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back and check that.
They're on YouTube. I'm sure they're on YouTube. They'll be on YouTube.
Yeah.
They're 20 seconds long or whatever they are. But yeah, like I said, you know what? Yeah, overall, the Peacemaker. This was where whatever happened in this episode here, because obviously, like the holiday, it's very difficult when you've gone on and watched more episodes, because it does kind of start becoming quite a bit of a jumble. So even if you have watched a recap video or watched the episode again, you start thinking about things that happen in future episodes. So you have to be very careful. But at the same time, this was the episode, like I said at the start of it, that got me to where I knew, right, I'm all in on this now.
Yeah.
Like even if this ends in a blaze of glory and goes out terrible, I can always say that the first few episodes were good.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's been good so far.
Can we give this? I don't know if we did this in the first review, but can we give this a rating? Because obviously, I always like to give my
a review. Yeah, I definitely think we should. I think
I always do it out of 10. So let's everyone.
I think because this is a special occasion with special return of the holiday, so I think Holiday should go first for rating it, and then you can rate it, and then I'll rate it after. So what would you rate this out of 10, Chris?
Well, since I didn't do first episode, I didn't do the first episode. First episode, I would say a 10 out of 10 because it was a interesting way to reintroduce the character and storytelling and everything like that. This episode, I would say I would give it a 9 out of 10, and because, like I said, for the explanation, like towards you got to the point where he gets out of the apartment, he does all this stuff, and then you see him having the breakdown and all this stuff, and then you're going, like Rex pointed out, what's his motivation to really do this right now? He doesn't even know what a butterfly is. He doesn't know what he's fighting or anything. What is he doing this for, except for he's got a bomb in his head. That's all he's worried about. He
wants to be. I don't know what kind of word I'm looking for, but he wants to be like serenaded with respect, and he wants to be respected and he wants to be glorified is a good word. Yeah, he wants to be glorified for the things that he does because he feels deep down, probably because of his dad, he feels like everything that he's ever done is because somebody else has pulled the strings while he's doing it, even though that's exactly what is taking place right now with this character.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think what it is that you're not sure what the stakes are yet. I mean, and this is me just not thinking about the future episodes. I know we've all seen all first 6 so far. And, thinking about, okay, at this point of the show, you're going, okay, what are the real stakes? He doesn't really know what butterflies are. Nobody's telling him anything. He doesn't even know what he's really doing because if you remember, he really didn't even read the file. He left the file, and that's something we didn't point out though in the episode. Is the reason the butterfly tried to kill him in the first place was because she read the file about him, and then that's how. And he goes, "Well, I know what it is because I had the file. Why didn't you bring the file home? I didn't think I was supposed to bring the file."
Spoiler alert, because that actually doesn't take place until in a later episode, Chris. Like they don't reveal that until I think the next episode where he says,
"No,
yeah,
I know.
I think I might actually know. I think I might actually know. In fact, he might actually do it in this episode where he says, I think I actually know how I got caught."
They were talking about it.
Because Mern goes crazy, don't he? And he says,
goes crazy. Why don't you take the file home? And he said, but what was I supposed to do? Get laid and take the file home first and get laid? Yes, that's what you're supposed to do.
That's exactly what you were supposed to do. Like, he gives some reference about what happens if somebody else got files on something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he gives, I remember it now, yeah. And you know what? That is actually quite an important thing, which is, like, they didn't explain that very well. We spoke about that last week. Or in the last review,
we did.
Why it made no sense why this woman would have put out and then just turned completely, batshit insane on Cena's character. It made no sense at first, but then all of a sudden it was. Now you've got a bit of a reference, which is now it's good that we've actually the Holidays mentioned this because now we can actually speak about this and say it was good that they mentioned that because it made a lot more sense when you looked at it. And, to go straight to my rating, I'll say, I'm going to give it a reverse. The first episode, I'll say it was a 9 because I went into it with the John Cena thing in mind. I said that last week. I said, if I say last week, I mean the last review, whenever it was.
Yeah.
I went into this with the mind of, let's see what John Cena's doing. Like with the Thunder in Paradise with Hulk Hogan, some of the Rock's early films, etc. I wanted to really see what John Cena was doing. So I went into this, and I always will watch this with the mind of this is just John Cena's new wrestling character. Sorry if people don't like that, but that's what I'm doing, yeah? But in the first episode, like I say, it was enough to get me to watch the second episode. The second episode for me, it was enough for me to watch the rest of the series. So it was like, for me, I'd give the first episode a 9, and I'd give the second episode a 10, because that's what started, it was enough for me. Like I say, it was enough of a filler of, yeah, this is different. This is not your average. This feels a bit more like Stargirl, like Lois and Superman. This doesn't feel like Arrow season 3 and Flash season 2. It doesn't feel like all that drove me away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I'm going to give that the same rating as well. For this episode, I'd definitely give it 10 out of 10. And the first episode, I would probably give it 9 out of 10 as well. Because I as we talked about in the last review, I had a very low expectation going into this. I thought, well, everybody's told me that, it's really good. John Cena's good in this, but
John Cena thing as well. It's definitely got to be the John Cena thing. Now, I think that we need to make it very evident to wrestling fans and it's a bit late in this review, to be honest, but I'm still going to say the same thing that I said last week. If you are going into this thinking like we did, that this is because John Cena's in this, that there's no way that this can be good because of what will John Cena allow his character, even if it is the Peacemaker character, what will he allow himself to be portrayed as? All that goes out the window within 5 minutes of the first episode, so you can get that out of your brain. Like, John Cena will clear. To be perfectly honest, I actually expect, and I'm going to say this, a slightly suspicious, potentially homosexual moment between John Cena and Vigilante at some point in this. We are that close with these two characters that I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get something slightly weird between these two.
Yeah, I think we probably will. Maybe before this series ends, we probably will.
All there that there's more to these two characters, like that one of them could, maybe Vigilante has a bit of a crush or whatever. Like, that's what I thought at first. Like, he might have a bit of an infatuation with the Peacemaker's character, because look how excited he gets when he realizes that he's coming back. But that could just be to do with the evilness and the insecurity and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so we're going to wrap this up now. It's been great talking about episode 2. It's great to have the holiday Christopher Mace back, even if it could be for one night only. But I'm hoping we can get you back for the next review, because it's been great having you here. Rex the Boss 1, great having you once again. Very honest, very shoot between the eyes. Love it.
Technically, I'm Rex the Boss 1 through 11, so you can call me Rex the Boss 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11. I actually prefer 11 because obviously 11 is my favorite number. Well, 1 is technically my favorite number, but there's nothing better than your favorite number twice, is there? So 11 is my favorite number. I like to.
We'll definitely roll with that.
Number though.
Yeah.
Say that again. Holiday.
So that's going to be it from us. So what did you guys think of Peacemaker episode 2? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on the alien hitting out on Peacemaker? And also, what are your thoughts on the Adrian Chase version of the Vigilante character? You know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and we will see all of you next time for another edition of the Peacemaker Season 1 review series, where it will be Warhawk Beyond 2040, Rex the Boss 11, and hopefully the one and only, the holiday Christopher Mace. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe, and much appreciated as always. Thanks for listening, and guys, great having you here today. It's been great.
Take care, everyone. Take care.
Take care, everybody.